Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Colder Pizza.
And stuffed crust.
Today we're continuing our Leaving the JW Cult story, talking about our first doubts, all the way up to more or less when COVID struck, which is when a lot of people began to do the awakening process. You know, COVID gives you time to reflect, you weren't there at the hall, so you weren't currently getting all that indoctrination.
Yeah, and you weren't constantly, surrounded by people who are in the one mindset.
Yeah.
Because kind of when you're in those crowds, you're influenced by all those who surround you.
Mm-hmm. It's an echo chamber.
Yeah, basically.
Like, you're only hearing people with the same opinion,
Mm-hmm.
so you feel more validated in it because you're not getting a variety of different views on, whatever you're talking about.
And let's be honest, like in the beginning, we were really, getting ready for the meetings,
Mm-hmm.
answering. We were like, oh my God, this is going to be so easy. It's through Zoom,
We might have
no
prepared
pressure.
for meetings too,
Yeah.
like Watchtower, highlighting the Watchtower and
Watching those
getting
little videos that they recommend you watch,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, even before COVID, like some of the things like that really show the weakness of your faith, like, things that poke holes in your faith. Like for me, definitely was in the very beginning. Like I always say, it's always the story of Noah's Ark, specifically the video with Bill Nye and Ken Ham. Where it's a debate where there's two videos, I believe. There's one where it's like a literal debate where they're actually debating each other, like in a stage, and there's a crowd of people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Half of them, or a good chunk of them, are believers, like, Christians, and then a good other chunk is maybe like on Bill Nye's side, like atheists, right? Or agnostic. And then there's another video where he's just walking around the ark that I've always wanted to go to just because I'm curious, right? But there's a big ark in Kentucky, which is Noah's Ark, right? Yeah. And it has like animals and stuff. So the video basically, that the explanation that Bill Nye had to that, like it makes no sense the story of Noah's Ark makes no sense. It couldn't have happened because the animals' gases inside the ark would have killed them. There's no way to have enough food for them. How did they handle the water? How did they make sure that the animals wouldn't eat one after the other? How did they get penguins and like kangaroos that are native to Australia? How did they sail over to Africa or wherever they lived in the Middle East, right? To go back over.
And I remember this because you used to talk about this at the family studies. You'd say, well, the kangaroos, it just doesn't make sense. And even with like dinosaurs and everything, and you would talk about, well,
yeah,
if you look, there's fossils of what seems to be like humans, but obviously not humans like we are now.
Yeah, and those fossils predate the Ark, predate Adam and Eve, predate by many thousands and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years. So a lot of the history, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. You have to really suspend your disbelief to be able to consider the Bible and its telling of how the origins of humanity, and try to make that work with what we see now. That's what the Ark in Kentucky does. It's pseudoscience, basically.
Yeah.
So that stuff is hogwash, because if you're having to do loopholes and in your mind to make something work, then that means it's already like not true. So like we had come up with this theory. Do you remember Dad and us? We said that, okay, how is it possible for the whole world to flood? There's proof that it hasn't, that there's no proof of rain in these areas at that time, like no global flood. It's impossible. There's no record of that, geographically or historically.
So our mindset was like that it must have flooded what was their world at that time. So just that general area. I mean, but that's what I always discuss is like you have to make these explanations to make the things that what Jehovah's Witnesses talk about make sense. Mm-hmm. And you're not supposed to read more into it. It's just what it's written, in the Bible. You're not supposed to make your own canon to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what it is. You're making your own biblical canon. So like other things like the water, the canopy of water, like there's supposed to be a sheet of water that they used to believe that there was a sheet of water that hovered over the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It even says it in scripture, but then the New World Translation kind of muddies that a little bit. But either way, like, there's these things that just do not make sense. And in the Bible, you have to really work mind games to make it make sense. And what about you? Like, what were some of the things that you think got to you to where you are now?
I would have to say, one of the things that's always frustrated me was that all this money, okay, and I talk about this all the time with Mom, but all this money goes to helping brothers in other countries of need. Mm-hmm. And they still had dirt floors in their Kingdom halls. Yeah, like in Africa. And that would get me so upset. I would sit there in the Kingdom hall and just be like, why couldn't they just add some AC? Why can't they help these brothers have closer accommodations? You know, why does it have to be 10 miles away from their home and they have to walk in the dead of night to go to the Kingdom hall? That's just one of those things. And also the doctrines. I would just sit there in Kingdom Hall and be like, this makes no sense, and no amount of explanations would make sense. And then they would sit there and be like, we used to think this, and now we think this. And then I would be like, well, so you weren't right then, what makes you right now? You know? Yeah. I would sit there and just be like, I don't know if I can fully trust everything they're saying, because if they're wrong then, like 10, 20 years from now, how are they going to explain this madness again, you know?
Yeah, then they were never right.
They were never right to begin with.
So why teach something that is going to be not right later?
But, you know, when you're a witness and you're, like, full in, you're preaching, you know, all your friends, and that's what I'm saying, like, you're surrounded by this one mindset. You just kind of just sit there and go, well, I shouldn't be thinking like this, even though deep inside I do.
Yeah. It's kind of like that meme, oh, you respect women? Name every woman. Where it's like, oh, you're Jehovah's Witness? Explain the second generation.
I'm trembling.
Like, legitimately, like, I can't explain to you the second generation thing. Like, the two generations. I don't get it.
I don't even think they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, like...
They're just like, trust me, bro.
Really? Do you see the David's plane with like the chart thing? Like he has like a drawing with like the lines.
And it makes no sense.
It still doesn't make any sense. But that's true. Doctrines are like really wonky in the religion, but when you're in, you don't think about it.
Yeah. Honestly, I just remember my brain going zoo. You know, like you just have this buzzing noise in the background where you're kind of like phasing out everything you're listening to.
But there are things that we even as witnesses, PMEs, we never agreed with. Like I never agreed with head covering for a woman, for a sister. I never agreed with that. I never liked it. It's so weird. Cover your head.
You know, though, I kind of just was accustomed at that point. You know, when you're a kid and they put like a head covering, going, this is what you got to do. You kind of just, you know, I imagine that's what a lot of people feel like when they're raised as witnesses.
But it's so annoying because you could have literally a sister who would be 60 years old, she could even be somebody who was served at Bethel full time, pioneer. Maybe the highest of the high would be like wife of like a circuit overseer, right? Other than like a governing body member. And then there's a 12-year-old publisher boy in the other room, and she would still have to cover her head.
If you're in the Kingdom Hall and there's a brother in the building and he doesn't even have to be in the same room, you still have to cover your head because you're there. There's a brother in the presence of the vicinity 100 yards from you, you know?
Jehovah's Witness lore is like presence means in that vicinity, in that like building. It could be a different floor, a different room, but if they're there, you have to cover your head.
Exactly.
That's so stupid. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of beliefs that like poke holes in your, you know, quote unquote, faith. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And then we get to just a few years ago, COVID. And of course, what came with COVID was the Zoom meetings. That was definitely a time for a lot of people.
I would say it's a 180 from what we were used to.
Yeah. You go from having to get prepared for meetings, having to dress up completely, including your pants, to where Zoom is much more casual. You can literally, like, there was no brother behind you hovering to see, like, if you're Googling a comment. Like, literally, from COVID on, even a little bit after, when we were going to meetings still, in person, all my comments were from an app from a publisher.
See, I knew
all
my
comments.
I knew you were gonna bring that up because I always thought that was such a cheat.
I know. People were like, "Good comment." I'm like, right? I wasn't even writing my comments and my talks.
Who is this person, by the way, who's just writing some kind of zealot out there?
There are people. It's actually a Facebook group. And the Facebook group, so whoever is like the administrator, it was only in Spanish. I don't know English. In Spanish, it's a Spanish Facebook group. They take whoever's the admin to that group, the people, they use the app. They compile the answers and stuff, and they put it on the app. And that goes for talks, too. I was getting my outline, like the talks points there. So I wasn't having to work on it.
There was assignments even for sisters there.
Yeah, for everything in the meeting had a thing. It was always
because I did
a few days ahead.
One time. I did use one, but as more of a guide.
Yeah,
I did not cheat.
Okay, however you want to sugarcoat it, but yeah, and no, but I mean, it gave you time for reflection. Being at home, you realize like that screen. It's kind of like the way you feel if you watch let's say Cats in Broadway versus Cats the movie, right? So they're both cheesy, and let's say the Cats the movie is accurate to the play, but when you're there live in person, it's much more engaging. When you see it in the movie, it's like you're like, what the heck am I watching, right?
There's a bunch of people dressed like cats.
Exactly, James Corden. But when you're in the meeting and you're watching it there in the meeting, you just kind of like head nod, like you just bob your head back and forth. You're just not even there. But in Zoom, that layer of like distraction of the screen, it does not give you that same attention.
Not to mention, you could just turn off the camera so they don't have to see you, and then from there on, you don't even have to sit in front of the computer. You can go off and eat dinner.
We would make coffee,
drink coffee, eat a cookie.
My favorite was when we were at Mom and Dad's house, and we would be in the meeting, but then somebody said. Well, I don't know if it was dad or a brother. Either way, that we had to wear pants, right? So at a certain point, we would just put the camera all the way up to our torso up, but we would still have normal pants down, and we would be like sitting up and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that, like the loopholes we have to go through to be comfortable.
I remember hearing people say like, "Oh, I still dress up. I wear my skirt, my shoes." They wear shoes indoors. Oh. You're in your house. Why are you wearing high heels? Do their hair, put in jewelry. Why put up the effort to be on a camera?
That's so lame.
It is so lame.
It's really lame.
For what payout in the end?
Yeah, it was pointless. I mean, who are you trying to impress? Yeah, I've even heard stories of brothers that would be who, before giving talks, like the elders would tell them, okay, let me see your pants. Let me see your shoes. Like they were vetting the brothers to make sure they were dressed up well. I don't even know what I would react to if a brother was saying, told me to do that. That's really invasive.
I think so too. And have you seen those photos of people who dress up for the conventions?
Ugh. With the badge?
Well, yeah, with the lapel.
Who's gonna see that?
I don't know.
That's what it's called, a lapel?
I think so.
Wow, I've always called it the badge because in Spanish it'd be solapa, which sounds more like badge to me.
It sounds like soup too.
It does sound like soup. Solapa. But either way, yeah. Then we get to a point where, of course, we've been doing Zoom meetings for a while. Mm-hmm. On April 1st of all days, on April Fool's Day, they say that we're all going to go back to in-person meetings, right?
I think all of us were very saddened that day because we had gotten so used to not have to get ready for the meetings, not having to dress up and go out of our own way. And during that time, we actually were like, oh, we could just... Beforehand, we were like, we can walk to the Kingdom Hall because we don't live that far. We're going to enjoy it. And now after this whole COVID and pandemic thing and the whole Zoom meeting, the thought of just driving to the Kingdom Hall to get for a meeting, it was really daunting on us. It
was a drag. And having to go to the hall really it took more effort. Mm-hmm. It took way more effort.
Yeah, definitely.
It was way more convenient to use Zoom, like you said. And honestly, I didn't look forward to it. I didn't want to go back to meetings.
In fact, you even said, if they tell me to go out door to door, I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's true. We were doing Zoom preaching still at the time. Because
I remember you said, we're going to go back to meetings, but you will never see me going back door to door.
Oh, yeah.
And I was... Yeah. And I think it shook Dad. Because at that point, he didn't ever thought, it didn't come across his mind that you'd ever say something like that.
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, I did say. Because I did not want to go door to door. It's really embarrassing. You know?
Yeah.
The letter writing was so much more convenient.
It was.
You send the letter and it's gone. No attachment.
And full honesty, we did not even turn on our cameras half the time for meetings. Mm-mm. And if it was on for like 20, 30 minutes. So like that, they would see us. And then we'd turn it off and we'd go on the site. And I was very hooked on Animal Crossing. So I was just building my village. And you would be on the other side.
Probably on my phone.
Playing on your phone or
something. Or by DS or something,
yeah.
Yeah. That is true. You're reminding me of so many things, yeah.
You don't remember, do you?
No.
And then you'd be like, don't you want to be on the camera?
Yeah, I was way more foolhardy in that sense. Where I'm like... I'm not really that in it either, but I want to at least appear, right? So I was like not in it, but I was copying comments. I was not in it, but I was like writing letters from an app that we had, or from like a PDF file that we had, right?
Yeah.
Or a picture, and we would just kind of copy the same one, use different texts, but it was really just the same ones over and over.
I was so uninvolved that I wrote several versions of a letter for each track that was a little very like it varied between them, so like that it wouldn't sound like the same thing, and I just put the person's name and I would write like one sentence and then wait 10 minutes and then write another one, so like that I could just fill the whole hour in one letter.
You were cheating here for me. My handwriting's so bad, it took me a good while to write it good anyways. But I would still end up sending like 2 or 3 letters more than you would.
Ugh, I'm not going to lie. I remember when brothers were like insisting that you put your name and your address on it. And I was like, I am never going to put my address on a letter. The last thing I want people to know is where I lived. Especially since I was sending this embarrassing, overcopied letter.
Yeah.
Of something that I wasn't even full-heartedly agreeing with at that point.
Oh, my God, yeah. Why are brothers such narcs? Like brothers and sisters, they're such narcs with each other.
They're the hall monitor. That is what it feels like. They're hall monitors,
Yeah,
they have the littlest bit of authority and they feel like they have full control.
Well, that's what the organization promotes. That's why they have these like hierarchical layers, servant, elder, overseer, there's a layer. It's just like a pyramid scheme. There's all these layers and there's different vetting. They encourage people to be snitches, So when you have people like that, it just makes it so much more like annoying.
Okay, so we're back going to physical meetings, right? Mm-hmm. How many do you think for how many months?
No, we went a while.
How many months did we go?
We went a while. It was
it didn't start on April because they announced it on April.
Spanish, and then I went to the English and I left.
Mm-hmm.
I never even attended an English meeting.
I think the last meeting we went to was in August.
It was the last in-person meeting we went to was like July.
Dang. Yeah.
But we attended a few Zooms and then that was it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last in-person meeting I swear was like before August.
So we're almost at a year at this point. Should we do a year anniversary free party or something?
It's a good idea. I'd like to do that. That'd be fun. Or maybe like a live stream or something. But I don't know how many people would join in a live stream. I take that back. I don't want to do a live stream. But
crush your spirit.
I know. But a thing for our year anniversary, that's a good idea. Anyways, that's something to talk like outside of the channel. But
that's true.
Yeah, we are hitting a year. You're right. It's already June.
I mean, yeah, June. I mean, at that point, once we started going to the in-person meeting, it wasn't the same.
No, it wasn't.
I couldn't sit there and like pay attention at that point because literally all the information was just like ridiculous at that point.
Yeah. I didn't see it in the same way. It lost whatever spark it had before.
It's kind of like we are out of the trance.
Yeah.
So we didn't understand why people were so, oh my gosh, we're back together. I'm so happy. And then I was just miserable because I wanted to be home. I wanted to be doing, things I wanted to do in the weekends, things I want to do on my evenings,
Yeah. I don't know how there are people who actually find pleasure in doing Jehovah's Witness stuff. Like people like preaching. People like talking to people about crazy religious stuff. People like going up on stage and giving talks. Like what kind of psychopath you have to be to like that crap?
Just looking back, I cannot remember if I actually was happy.
Yeah.
Was I just complacent? Those are things I ask myself because honestly, I was just doing day-to-day things and I was going to the meetings, but I just don't remember going, oh my gosh, I was so happy growing up. I was so happy this and that. I don't remember being happy.
Yeah.
I remember being happy when we didn't go to meetings and we spent time as a family.
Wasn't that the best?
That was the best. Sometimes we legit would not go to meetings. We'll start going there and then something will happen. Maybe mom and dad argued on something, or we all were bummed out, or we got mad, because we had to travel so far for a meeting, that we just go and play pool in a random place or eat in a restaurant, watch a movie, and those legit were the better days.
Yeah. Yeah, they were. They definitely were like the highlight of my day, just not going to the meeting. Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, like, how much of my time as a witness that you thought you were happy at the time, how much of that were you actually happy versus were you like just entranced in the routine?
Yeah, or you made yourself think that you were happy.
Yeah, because you've been taught to be happy when you're doing quote unquote Jehovah's work.
Like you would go home and be like, oh, what a wonderful day I spent just doing spiritual things.
Yeah.
But in reality, you were like, oh, dang, I spent all day doing Jehovah's things. I couldn't even watch that one movie or catch that TV show on TV real quick,
Yeah, it is way easier to catch movies and TV shows now.
Yeah,
versus
I know, right?
As a witness, you just don't have time.
We've actually seen like a lot of movies this year.
Yeah.
And it's because we're not,
we're not in that routine.
Yeah, I know. We actually have time. Mm-hmm. I feel like my week is longer.
Yeah. All that pretty much leads us to just where we are at this point, and we'll talk about that on our next video. Just kind of like from waking up to like leaving the organization to,
what's our future plans?
Future plans, yeah.
Who knows?
Which is something you never think you'd have to do when you leave the organization. I always thought, shoot, why study? Why even bother? Because Armageddon's going to come.
Yeah, so. Why make roots in your life now when obviously the end is right around the corner, Why invest in yourself, basically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't invest in yourself. Give yourself fully and commit yourself to Jehovah, my brothers and sisters.
Get out of this room.
Yeah, elder talk, that cadence.
Oh gosh, no, I hate it so much now.
I know, it's like triggering when you hear, and then I can't help it, but like those old phrases, like, isn't it encouraging? Or did you notice? Or friends. Yeah, so cultish. Like when you,
I know.
But like it's just like there in your head.
It's ingrained too.
Yeah, like you can't help but like it's there. Anyways, we'll talk more about our future and like where we are now in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and then the notification bell so you're notified every time we have a video coming. I am Coulter Pizza.
And stuffed
crust. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.